Residents in Gauteng and Durban have been experiencing water shortages. Frustrated residents are saying that they have been without water for weeks now. Last week, at a press conference on this very matter, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu, said the situation overall is that we are a water-scarce country. In other words, South Africa has less water than it needs. Dr. Anthony Turton is a water specialist and joins us now to speak about this. A very good evening to you, Dr. Turton, and thank you so much for speaking to us. I just want to pick off from that story you've had speaking about what's happening in Nandoni, where this gentleman says he has contended with a borehole from since he was born, even though they are right next to a dam and there's no tap or piped water in his own yard. Tell us what you think is going on here, because you have said about 30% to 60% of South Africa's water is unaccounted for due to theft. When do you know when it is theft, and when do we know that it's actually water scarcity?
Okay, well, there are many questions that you've asked there. Yes, South Africa is a fundamentally water-constrained country. This is a fact. And that is why the Department of Water and Sanitation was created, in order to solve that problem by creating the necessary infrastructure to provide water security. So the fact that we're water scarce is not an excuse for non-performance, but that is the reason why the department gets the budget that it does. Having said that, I'm quite shocked to hear the spokesperson talk about that dam when they just talk about another 500 million rand being added. It's not about the money. This is not the issue. It's about the fact that there was money allocated before. Why was the project not completed on time, on brief, and on budget? And this is the problem, that we just keep throwing money at underperforming contractors, but we don't hold them liable. So we have to really up our game if we're going to start getting value for the money that we spend.
I think this is precisely the question that I was asking, that when do we know when it's water scarcity and when do we know if it's theft? For instance, if we look at Gauteng metros, they've lost something like 1.2 billion rand annually from water theft. Ekurhuleni itself has lost a vast amount of water. So if we're told that there isn't any water, is it because of mismanagement? Is it because of theft? Or because for some of us, it's an educated guess, really.
Well, the simple facts of the matter, I'm a scientist, so I work with facts. The fact of the matter is that the National Water Resource Strategy #1, published in 2002 or thereabouts, was very clear that South Africa had allocated 98% of all of the surface water we had available to us at that point in time. So, in other words, we became water constrained effectively in 2002. Subsequent to that, climate change has reduced the amount of water in the rivers in general. So we've literally become water constrained since 2002. So the question now is, what are we doing about it? We can't just keep saying, we're going to throw another 500 million rand at it. We've got to start creating the infrastructure for what is known as new water. And that is water that is recovered from waste, water that's recovered from acid mine drainage, and water that's recovered from the ocean. And of course, the strange thing is that we've actually done this very successfully in different parts of the country, but for some other reason, we don't seem to want to publicize this or make this an official policy direction.
I'll take Umgeni at this point and just read out what the spokesperson there has said, that there's been a reduction of megalitres of water per day, 50 he put it at, to the supply of eThekwini Water and Sanitation, and saying it's because the pump is approximately 180 metres below surface. And he also talks about aqueduct water, that has developed a leak. So is it a very complex system? Is there a way, for instance, those who are near a beach, that we can use salinated water and make it drinkable?
Okay, all water supply systems in South Africa are complex. And in fact, the simple reality, once again, getting back to the National Water Resource Strategy #1, published in 2002, it's identified then that the water management area that supplies Durban will be in deficit by something like about 744 billion cubic meters by 2025. So that's been known since 2002, nothing new there. Yes, we can desalinate seawater, and in fact, there's been some very, very interesting work done in Durban itself. They just recently completed a trial known as a remix trial, where what they've done is they've taken sewage effluent, in other words, water that's been recovered from wastewater that would normally be discharged into the environment. They've mixed that with seawater coming in from the ocean, and they've desalinated it extremely successfully. But the important thing is that by using that remix technology, they've brought the cost of desalination down to equal the same price as water from the surface. So the important thing is that in South African context, every single one of our cities, from Richards Bay all the way to Cape Town, all the coastal cities are fundamentally water constrained. The reason being that the rivers have been sucked dry by water users inland, and the future for those cities and the local economies that they sustain has to be in a large-scale, utility-scale desalination plant, now that the cost of desalination has come down to a par with surface water provision.
Are we using the resources that we have? And I asked this question because we were there in the Free State during the elections, for instance, and if you're looking at around the Qwaqwa areas and some of the surrounding areas which don't have water, it was pointed out that there are 3 reservoirs where water can be piped to residents, and there's also neighbouring Lesotho, the Lesotho water project, that we could also be pumping water from there. So are we thinking creatively about how to alleviate some of these problems?
Yes, we are thinking creatively. South African engineers have always been world-class and continue to be so. The simple reality is that our demand for water, driven by population growth, has outstripped the water that we have available. That's a simple reality. So we don't really have too many more places to build dams. We can build a few more dams in the Lesotho Highlands, and those are currently planned, and although they're behind schedule, they are being built. But in general, South Africa can't build any more dams because we've simply run out of water. And of course, on top of that, with climate change now, we are experiencing disturbances in the rainfall patterns, but more importantly, we're losing more water off open storage facilities to evaporation. So that is why our total water resource has in fact declined. It's been revised down 2 or 3 times in the last decade or decade and a half, simply because of climate change. So the bottom line is South Africa is a fundamentally water-constrained economy, and we've gone as far as we can by doing what we currently do. We have to do things differently, and the different things we must do are recovering water from waste, which is being successfully done at Imalefeni. Imalefeni is a world-class plant where they're taking acid mine water from the coal mines, and they convert it into the highest quality drinking water at a reasonable cost. And, of course, now the trial plant, the remix plant in Durban, where it's now proven that we can desalinate at the same price as surface water. So this is the direction we're going to have to be going into, I'm afraid, because simply the fiscus cannot continue to throw R500 million at projects that are behind schedule where the money's been taken and nothing's been delivered in return.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, Dr. Anthony Turton, water specialist.